It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnett Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And it's Cutting Edge Consciousness. This is Barnett Bain. Speaking over my co-host,
No, you're not.
Freeman.
We have this.
Freeman
Okay,
Michaels.
look, we're giving ourselves away. We have these little hand signals we do to who's covering the opening and or the comebacks from when we come back from commercial.
I missed your hand signal.
Well, you were both. You gave me both signals. You pointed to me to say I was going to do it, and then you kept nodding like you're going to do it. So it was cute. There's a moment there we were both confused.
It was one of these.
We neither of us, of course, have been to the sign language course, but maybe that's something we need.
Well,
to
we know
do.
this one.
That's right. Barnett, it's radio. You have to explain what you just
We
did.
know this one. For those of you who have are watching this on YouTube,
Oh, that's right. You can always watch us on YouTube.
it's the mime moment.
The
The mime moment. So, lots going on. Gets your word. The challenge to become biggerer and biggerer just keeps rolling along.
It just keeps
rolling along. I must say that it's been a stressful week.
What is going on right now?
The last few days have been pretty stressful.
That's right.
And I feel
yeah.
like a lobster in a pot. And, just when I get used to the water, somebody cranks it up again to like a super boil.
Yeah.
And I start getting all
Wiggly.
wiggly and squiggly again. So the last few days have been a constant process of wiggling and squiggling and chilling out and then wiggling and squiggling. I've never experienced it at quite this accelerated rate before.
It's crazy. And I think, one of the things that we've both become adept at, or fairly adept, though I know we both have our moments, is taking our cue from what the feedback system, our universe, is revealing to us.
Yeah, we even give each other mixed signals now.
That's right. We can't even start the show.
Can't even get going.
That is funny. So, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's uncomfortable, but there's a part of me that's just sitting here wondering, like, okay, what is this all about? And I'll be honest, there's a part of me that, of course, is still terrified. Like, I want to crunch this down and figure it out and pound it out and stay the course and da-da-da. Another part of me
Do it the old way.
is kind of just chuckling, going, this is wacky, man. What the heck is this all
It's
about?
wacky. Well, I had an experience of that I registered differently.
Yeah.
So stress registered differently. So I guess that is some kind of movement.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I experienced it as being inundating. That I had so much coming at me, wasn't beyond my ability to respond. So it didn't put me into crisis, in the sense of crisis, defining crisis as not being able to respond to what comes at me, but pretty close to it. I felt that I was bellying up to bellying up to crisis. Just that this was coming on, and this was coming at me, and this was coming at me, and
I know
I
when that
started to get
happens for
very. You call it stackers.
Well, and what you do, which is, forgive me, I'm kind of
Yeah, what do I do?
I'm outing you a little bit.
Go ahead, out me.
But it's interesting. I can tell because of the emails you send me. You start piling. You do this thing. I'm sorry. I'm kind of.
Oh yeah, no, I do one, and then I then 2 minutes later there's another one.
Yeah, but they're piling on. They're piling on things, and it's funny because I'm not going to out you completely, but there's one of the things I read that we already have an answer to, and it's so funny. I could tell that you were spinning out a little bit, and I just let it go. I of course answered you, but I called you, and it was the next day. I said, "Here's the deal with that," and you're like, "Oh, right." But it's a moment, and I have a tendency similar to this. So we do a lot of mirroring. But I recognize, so the spin has almost a life of its own, and it's very easy to get the whole Tasmanian devil thing going, where you're picking up steam and you're throwing out more trash, as it were, because it's what happens. It's like the button gets pushed and then the spin begins. But the beauty of it is, it doesn't last long, and it's so like, okay, that's that crazy part of me that goes whipping around. And
well, that's the response. That's certainly one of them. There's a couple others, but that's one of the signature responses. But what triggers it is the amount of inbound stuff.
of course.
And I noticed looking back that the amount of inbound stuff that I can handle now is a very different order
Yeah.
of things from not that long ago.
Yeah.
But I am amazed and inspired, particularly when I'm feeling inundated. When I look around and I see those who seem to meet the challenges of a very complex schedule with elegance and with ease and gracefully.
Yeah, but you're not married to them. I mean, I'm not diminishing what you're saying, but
I'm not married to them.
yeah, because when you're
yeah.
you know, everyone tells me about my wife, and you do as well, how solid as a rock she is, and she is. I'm not denying it. It's a quality of who she is. She's steady Eddie. But when you're married to someone, you see where that's
You're
how
on
it gets
such
expressed.
thin ice right now.
But
You are really. I
wanna
did
say
you,
something about
anybody
that.
hear that crack?
No, I want to say something about this. It's so important. So look, you were around
Yeah.
for Jazz and I doing our dance, one of our less enjoyable dances. And it's so interesting because we set this up so brilliantly. All right, we did our cuckoo dance. Let's say it was a week ago. Then a week later, a few days ago, we had an opportunity to do it again because the situations, the opportunities lined up perfectly.
And you sized up.
We didn't do it.
You
It
sized.
was
You
fantastic.
you at that point had become energetically a container
That's it.
large enough to hold that tempest without it touching the sides.
We just switched
Whereas
stories.
a week earlier,
That's right. I couldn't handle it.
a week it's
I was the
it's-
whirling
It
dervish.
isn't sufficient to switch stories. It requires switching your own story.
Yes.
It requires developing a capacity, emotionally, mentally, physically developing a body to hold the energetics that once they hit the body and they start coursing through your nervous system,
Yeah.
it gets intense.
It's biochemical.
It gets
man.
intense. But you're right. In 1 week,
1 week.
you went from one situation to a situation where you were large enough to hold that little mini galaxy of Sturm und Drang.
Exactly.
So this is where we're at, and on
love it.
on
I
a
love it.
several times a week basis.
I love it. It's such a relief. You know, I remember you and I talking one time, and I said to you, you know, it's always got this up and down, ebb and flow, you know, back and forth. And you said to me, always. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that was a relief to me. And I hope that it's a relief to the audience. Because, look, one of the things that I personally get a little triggered by is I listen to a lot of people's shows. I do from a professional standpoint. I do because a lot of our guests are on those shows and so forth and so on. And I even listen to our shows over and over again, too, where I feel like, oh, we were just doing the I've arrived at the point of consciousness shtick versus the humanity of it, which is it's not all tucked in all the time. It's not supposed to be. And sort of, you know, I want to say to folks, that's the good news. You know, that's the good news is we can take this whole enlightenment guru persona stuff off and be real with the, wow, that was a tough week. And it was. And that all of a sudden creates a kind of space in my experience for weeks to be tough and weeks to be great.
Well,
and
it
so forth and so
certainly
on.
extends an invitation. I see it as an invitation to become very intimate, very close, very tender. I don't always take up the invitation, but I'm aware of the invitation with myself.
Yeah.
To cut with myself. That's true.
Selves.
You're absolutely right. With myself.
The many me's.
Cut the many me's some slack.
That's it.
And create a little distance there so that I'm not so identified with every thought that drifts through the brain box and every emotion that that waves through my being. And to breathe. Then it comes in a phase of such an accelerated pace that I discover my edge and have to rediscover that invitation to be intimate with it, to get close, not to feel, not to push back on it, not to resist it, not to judge it. And it is a process. It is definitely a process. And as you say, sometimes it's messy and sometimes it's sloppy. A little better today. I can feel. I can
better now than 25 minutes ago.
I can feel it glassing off a little bit. But yesterday was tough. yesterday was really a challenge. And you have a word called stackers.
Oh yeah.
Which I think applies to this.
Sure.
I mean, you kind of experience.
It's a pile-on.
It's a pile-on, and your frequency adjusts. It remodulates, and it, instead of holding a resonance that is so expansive that the other thing moves through, the other note moves through, that becomes the dominant frequency, and our frequency drops to be in a harmonic with that, and then out of that resonance, one thing after another begins to manifest, and they pile on, they stack up. It's a great word.
Yeah, and then we have an opportunity to shift it through compassion and a level of humility and
forgiveness,
recognition, and
acknowledgement,
and a whole lot of love.
And moving on.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of love. Love. You got to remember the love word.